There we go. Okay. Waiting for the video before making sure that the audio was active. Alright, there we go. 15-minute 15-minute timer. Okay. 1 sec. So, hi, hello, how you doing? Oh my god. Today. Anyway. BBC lightning round. Exactly. Exactly. So, like, I've discovered that if I'm not the one driving, then I'm perfectly fine. Taking notes while listening to an audiobook. So, like, I got to a certain point in here, and then was the passenger in the car, so ended up making flashcard notes instead of using the tab, so still need to go through and mark some of them, but there we go. Yeah. Which I realize is a feat in and of itself. But yeah. So, hi. Greetings, guys, gals, and wow, I can't even say my intro. 1 second. Let's try that again. Yeah. Let's try that again. Greetings, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome to the Botany Book Club. At present, we are going through the second section that we broke up this into of The Lily and the Crown, as you can see over yonder there. Just a heads up, I put it in the title, put it in the whatever. As far as I know, the strains are set to mature anyway, but The Lily and the Crown is it's essentially a botanical lesbian space people and pirates. That was phrased wrong. Botanical lesbians in space and also pirates. There we go. And there are some erotica elements in there. You have been advised. So yeah. As you might expect, the central part of the book has a bunch of things happening. Okay. So, chapter 7 opens with our intrepid heroine, Ari. Very hot bits, yes. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, 7 opens with our intrepid, botanist, Ari, discovering that the person that she looked up to and shared her research with when he came for a visit, stole her work. And So, yeah, okay, so I ended up listening through 16. Yeah, I ended up listening through chapter 16, but we can just ignore that for right now. So, um, she's trying to write non-binary. Non-binary. Yes, you have nailed her identity. Glad to be of assistance. Oh god. So, essentially, like we see, Ari going through I don't know, a crisis of uh trying to figure out why someone that she looked up to has done this thing, which, as we learn later, is apparently just kind of dude's MO. That's what he does. Kind of, um, like, like, sort of a Lockhart without the memory charms or the charisma. So there's that. But because it's so much of a thing, uh, a crisis of the world is not all sunshine and unicorns. We still have trouble with this idea. Yeah, no, totally, totally. Because it's if you're able to see stuff with that, like, I don't know, wonder, then you see it from a completely different angle, and it's there's some good stuff in there, and yeah, I know, totally get that. I am with you there. I am with you there. Um, yeah. I do appreciate that, like, even, you know, even just on a friend level, we've got assistant slash Mer who who doesn't really give any kind of a care about Bonnie, but like, right, this person who, you know, I kind of care about, sort of, uh is having a situation, and also this jerk stole her work, so like, no, we're gonna, you need to write a thing, like, you're gonna write a thing, you need to write a thing, okay. And then later, uh yeah, later, she's, I forget what the context is, they've just gotten back to the rooms, like, right, did you ever send that? No? Okay, yeah, no, just sit, we're gonna we're gonna do it. We're gonna like discuss the thing, and then we're gonna send it. Like, we're actually gonna send it. I mean, if you don't, then I will. So like, because really, and they find out that Mr. Moon been stealing all kinds of stuff from everybody. So yeah, yay for research stuff of that nature. I am glad that, like, I mean, we don't know if it's because there's multiple instances that that's come up as an issue, but it's good that they've acknowledged that that's a thing. But from the sounds of it, it's like, oh yeah, people have said that before. Okay, so why is he still the head of seemingly that branch of science? Why are y'all still supporting him and publishing his stuff? Like, seems good on the surface, but like, there appears to be a few gaps in that there. I don't know. But yeah. Hope they included supporting evidence. It looked like it, or at least descriptions of stuff, but for the, like, when the info comes back that, like, oh yes, we've heard that before, they're asking if uh they're asking if Ari has any supporting evidence, so they probably didn't. Yeah. So, and it is interesting how, like, Ari's getting stories about pirates from the Pirate Queen incognito in here. It's just like, because he's in power, they aren't, and he's supported by other assholes who got the PhD by theft. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So, 7 is the chapter that we get the twist that's not so much of a twist because, honestly, dude was shady at the jump. Just gonna put that out there. But, like, the twist that, Ari's work is being claimed by somebody else, and where, assistant initiates, the more sexual slash romantic elements of their relationship. Also, just heads up, I put a 15-minute timer on for you guys, and it says like 40 seconds left. So make of that what you will. Yeah. Which, like, okay. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Honestly, part of this is, I'm good reading it. I'm not so good at giving active commentary about, like, passages of erotica. So, like, half, well, a good, like, 6 pages is just one scene in 7. Before we go, botanical name symbolism, Paxillum, when Ari is trying to make peace, liver reconciliation. Oh, that is true. That is very true. Alright. Alright. Well, if y'all are heading out, have a fabulous night, and we'll see you later. See you later. But yeah. Basically, there's some pretty good scenes in there. The romantic element. Yeah. Ah. Thanks to you guys too. There you go. Okay. So, we've got. Alright. So, Ari's relationship with her plants has always been that they're there, she's there, no one really interacts with her, she doesn't have any friends, her dad's her only family and just ignores that she exists most of the time. And unlike people who make fun of her for liking plants and whatever else, the plants are just there. They do their thing. The insects that she brings in to work with the plants do their thing. They live. They're dependent solely on her because they're on a space station and have to manually be watered and everything else and taken care of. So it's a controllable element. It's something that she's responsible for that doesn't make her feel inferior. And that that comes back later as a thing, but those are the parameters that we're working in, essentially. Yes, thank you, Nightbot. for the remainder to drink the water. Okay. Also, just a complete aside, ah, who did, uh, The Lily and the Crown, as narrated by Angela Daw, is pretty great. Not gonna lie. The audio for this is fabulous. Like, I realize that there's not all that many characters, but they each have their own distinctive personality and tone and vocal pattern, which is great. So, yeah. Also, randomness. Like, I tend not to read all that much with romance stuff, so with the tabs, it's a little rainbow of flags, right? And you might notice that the green is one of the lower ones, because that's what we're analyzing mostly. I have a full bank of them practically, of the pink ones that get used for romance, but like, I used the last of the orange ones on this one, and it's just left with the pan flag, which I thought was kind of cool. So anyway, um, in 8, right, we've got, because there's, in this universe, right, you have the slaves and the owners of the slaves. It's not, at least for the information that we have access to, it's not any kind of inherited thing or lineage based thing. It's like spoils of war. Someone was in debt and that was the only way to get out of debt. That sort of thing. But if you are enslaved in this universe, or at least in the empire in this universe, you don't have the right to defend yourself, like legally, and various other things. So, like, essentially, it's like a lot of power dynamics and everything else. So there's a passage in here where Assistant Mer, because like at this point we know that Assistant is the pirate queen. That's the only way that this makes any sense. And the pirates have suspiciously been silent for the last however long she's been detained. that's convenient. But, like, assistant is trying to uh, initialize romantic overtures, and Ari's just like, no, we can't do that. You're a slave. What, you mean I'm not good enough for you? Like, no, like, you just, I'm in a position of power over you, and I don't want to, like, make you feel pressured to do anything. That's all. Ah. And then we get the kind of role switch that happens for pretty much the duration that assistant slash mer is mer 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 yeah is at the station of, like, in public deferring to Ari, because if she doesn't, both of them are gonna get in trouble. But the rest of the time, uh, it's evident that assistant has more power in the dynamic, at least on that particular front. So, yeah. Yeah. I just thought that, like, including that was a cool option there. Ah, that's why. Okay. It's like, there's a tab here. Why is it green? Because there's no plant related things here. That makes no sense. But yes. Just a word to the anyone here. If your partner is really into a particular thing, and, like, y'all have just been, like, especially if y'all have just been intimate, or have had a really in-depth conversation, and one or both parties is feeling vulnerable or whatever, don't that imply that uh part of the body of your partner's life's work is meaningless? Because, like, I get what she's saying in here, right? But, like, in a situation that emotions are heightened, especially if, like, Ari, at this point, you're dealing with a whole lot going on in your brain space and all of that, like, oh yeah, no, this is, like, I found your favorite tree. Oh no, that one's not my favorite tree. This one over here's my favorite tree. Like, what difference does it make? Would have it would read a little bit different than just, like, as a throwaway comment. So, just a thing there. uh yeah. So, Yeah, the latter half of 8 is also a steamy sort of scene there. I will say, right, Sinclair manages to do an interesting thing where it's like some science and then some sexy times and then like random humor to like finish the scene, and then like it starts again in the next chapter, which I appreciate. Like there's like this whole like sexy scene and everything, and then just like, yeah, you snore. You might want to not do that like right in my ear, thanks. uh Good times. uh, okay. Ow. Alright, so we've got 9. Alright. Uh okay, so chapter 9. Yeah. Chapter 9 starts out where is it? Uh with a whole lot of sex times. Um and then we discover that this universe has a chessboard equivalent, essentially, in called the carry board, I believe, is the pronunciation. Um, but instead of squares in kind of a checkerboard pattern, it's circles that are I forget if it was interconnected or concentric, but or both. From the sounds of it, alright, from the sounds of the description, there's like central circles and like the corners in the center and other ones around that, and they interact in some kind of way. And just like for chess, there's the piece that upon being captured, the game is over. In chess, it's the queen. In this, it's the emperor. And then there's soldiers instead of knights, presumably, and a few other ones. But this particular one is really old-fashioned because it doesn't have any of like the holographic projection elements. It's just wood. And was apparently one of Ari's mom's things. So yeah, that is okay. Here we go. Half the little figures were carved from mahogany, and the other half from pale oak. The overlapping circles on the board were ordered the same way. The board was dusty from disuse, and Ari rubbed her skirt over it, earning the glare from the system. Yeah, so overlapping circles. So it would, instead of squared edges, it would have rounded edges and still be broken up like that, but yeah. It is really cool how fast she learns and relearns games and stuff now, because she's been a botanist since, I don't know, she was like 15 or something, but we're able to be there to see how her mind works when she's relearning how to play Carrie, and then I think it's in this section, but she's playing another game with somebody. Don't know where it is. But you can see how she's learning something from scratch in there too. Well, sort of. It just kind of goes from she didn't know anything, and then she figured it out. So it, not all that much cerebral what's it's happening up in there, but there you go. Yeah. So, uh, hmm. Um, yeah. And we've got after Ari's confession that she's that she loves assistant the heretofore undetermined parent queen. Like there's an interesting dynamic there of she's told that pirates don't do love, because in pirate society, love is seen as a weakness and a liability, which is gonna be interesting how it's addressed in the latter third here, because, it's gonna come back, obviously. Excuse me. But like, Ari doesn't like to socialize, just as in general. And in order for, like, on the one hand, it's evident that assistant mayor is wanting to expand her awareness of her reality, because Ari has been rather sheltered, whether it's from her own actions or other people's influence. So, like, right, okay, you suggested that we go to the mess hall to have food. Alright, let's do that. And it's interesting, because she's just sitting there, and, like, because she's the station master's daughter, all of these, like, relatively, at least, high-ranking folks on the station come up and, like, oh yeah, there's the there's this defense maneuver that we're doing. I mean, I can't tell you all about it, but, like, there's this part that I can talk about, and there's this that's like a shipment of things, and there's this that's like a new thing that's happening. Meanwhile, like, the pirate queen is, just chilling there, standing in the background, like, okay, so ship movements, that's fascinating. Okay, like, interesting. Yeah. Oh yeah. And then we have the scene where essentially the both of them get fairly injured trying to get to and protect the other one. Because, like, assistant is in a spot that she's technically not supposed to be in because slaves aren't allowed in that corridor. So is, like, handcuffed to a railing, and a guard is gonna, like, hit her with a, I don't know, it's a shock stick. It's essentially a stick version of a taser from the looks of it. And Ari gets in the way. So, like, we've got Ari, like, getting between the guard and the person she cares about. And then we've got Ari on the floor, and the guard just, like, leaning over trying to assess the situation. And assistant's over there, like, pulling on the handcuffs to try and get free to get to Ari. And it's a whole mess. And the both of them are just, like, dealing with a whole lot. But that seems to be, if not a turning point, then like, ow, ow. Speaking of risks and pain responses, oh, okay. So, yeah. Yeah, from the descriptions and everything, um, and what I've heard of accounts of people who have run into a taser intentionally because it's a training exercise or otherwise, um, yeah, that's very much what it sounds like in there. Um, so yeah, and also, Mer seems to be one of those folks that when she gets like worried about people she cares about, gets like aggressively angry because you put yourself in harm's way. Ah, like, which, I mean, she's the pirate queen, so like it kind of makes sense at that point, you know. From from what she said, there aren't too many people that she's that close to, and like this one here that she's actually like actively kind of likes. It's just, you could have said something. You could have used your words. You would have been fine. We would both be fine. But no, instead, my wrists are kind of busted. I don't really care about that at all. But like, you got smacked in the side with an electrical charge, and now y'all bruised and in pain. And like, why? So yeah, uh also, I was just trying to figure, right? What would be the equivalent of the blue bubbly? Because I don't know. Like, I I can ID certain alcohols, but unless it's supposed to be like Bombay Sapphire or something, because that's the only, admittedly, that's the only alcohol I know that's blue. So there's that. But like with bubbles, and it's sweet. I don't know if Sapphire is sweet at all. I haven't tried it, but there's that. Also appreciate the breakdown of the complex flavor profile of grog. Because, like, in Earth-based pirate uh, stories, grog is like, if I remember right, the really cheap, kinda nasty beer that's in every safe harbor port. And here we have it's hard to describe. Imagine a combination of rum, bitters, blood, and piss, and you might come close. It's something of a rite of passage. once you can drink a whole pint without gagging, you can, well, get drunk on grog, I suppose. Also, I know she's a written character, but, like, I'm just consistently consistently finding things about Ariana that, like, I just relate to. Cause, like, she's going and just going and just having a conversation and, like, you know what? Uh, hummingbirds are cool. Yeah, we should get some for the garden. Okay. Like, honestly. Oh, yeah, no, the Love Confessions in 11. Never mind. I thought it was earlier. So, yeah, there's a, Ari, tells assistant that she loves her in 11, and it's not met with a positive response, shall we say. But then she comes back with, what's wrong with being told that you're loved? I think it would feel good. And that says a whole lot right there. Like, to the audience, to her partner, because she hasn't heard that in any permutation for years from anybody. Pretty much since her mom died when she was 7, and she's like 20 now. So, yeah. Whole ah, whole mental health thing at that point. Alright. I'm just gonna turn a page and the book closed, so now I don't know where it was. Okay, but we're in 11. Carry on. Come on. There we go. Okay. Alright. And now we're on to where I have notes on flashcards that are gonna, like, after this I'm gonna go through and mark out where the particular points are here. So, like, I realized that I was in a moving car when I wrote these, but, but like, when you have to actively think about what the context was of a particular chapter in order to be able to read your notes, it's a whole thing. I don't know. Anyway, okay. So, yeah. there's a whole thing in, and by this point, like they've been having a sexual and romantic relationship for just under 2 weeks. So it looks like it's like 11 nights apparently. So, and yeah. What was it? There was some mention of a micro pine cone, and I think she threw it at one point. I'll have to find that and put it in the things with plants section of of the notes. But like the only there's a point in here where Ari is just sitting there in the garden listening to Assistant like talk to herself about how like annoyed she is about Ari doing particular things or whatnot. And just keeps like sitting there quiet until just kind of called on it and like, okay, where are you? Are you there? So it kind of devolves into an impromptu hide and seek situation. And the monologue that we get from inside Ari's head, like, it the whole thing can kind of just be summed up in, well, mark me down as scared and horny. So, like, and then it resolves, and it's just, it's good. So, 12, Lord Geiger, Ari's dad, dies. And apparently deep, like, dark blue is the imperial color of mourning. So, instead of black or white, it's so blue cloak, blue outfits, all that sort of thing. And it's interesting here, right? There's like the Ari goes to see her dad, laying in his chambers, and the official who's talking to her and stuff, it's like, oh well, no one could have foreseen this happening. Like, no, he knew. He knew. He just didn't see fit to inform anybody else about it. But like, nah, he knew. And it is interesting for that. It's like, I realize that Ariana might have been paying more attention to particular cues and things because she saw her dad so infrequently that when she did, it was like taking all of the sensory input. But she saw him for like 5 minutes out of, what, a month and a half, maybe. And picked up on, like, yeah, he knew he was gonna die, versus all of these people around him all the time. And, seriously. Okay, and 13 opens on her dad's funeral, and they're on a space station. So they're doing the space station, or the space burial setup that I've only really seen in Star Trek. But then, like, Star Wars, they don't really do funerals in the films that I've seen, at least, aside from those that are on world. For Star Trek, though, there's been a number of funeral situations where they do the ceremony in one of the launch bays and then release the pod into space. And that's what is happening here. The individual and all their finery and everything is jettisoned into space. Which, as an archaeologist, that sounds equally fascinating and horrifying. Because, like, it depends on how the capsule is formulated, right? Like, if it's pressurized, which, or if it's, like, any number of things, really. At some later point in history, when, like, the signature of, like, this is a grave might not be as readily known, or something changes or whatever, or just like, yes, we are collecting things, and then it ends up in a ship or whatever. If it's not been allowed to decompose in some way, or become, like, would it be desiccated if it was a body exposed to space who's, like, already dead? Because then it would be, like, vacuum sealing the air and potentially moisture out of whatever the body is made up of. Maybe. My point is, if you have a coffin floating through space and it's, like, vacuum sealed and everything, and you bring it on a ship and open it, because, like, archaeologists, I know my people, okay? This is the thing we do. You end up with, like, either just a gooey mass of whatever in there, or, like, desiccated remains, or, like, some kind of time bomb situation where, like, you open it and the pressure is explosive because bodies and things. So, like, I realize it was just, there's a funeral, so, like, there's all of that, and it's fine. But, like, that's a thing that I think about, because, space, funerary rites, plant things. Kind of three of the big ones. For me to be perfectly honest. Alright. Okay. So 13 here. We've got so Ari's dad is laying in state, essentially. And everyone is coming through, paying their respects, and at one point, her dad's slaves are wailing and visibly distressed. And whether that's because they actively cared about her dad, or are worried about their own futures, or both, or whatnot, we don't really know. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, as far as the textual analysis. But that is an element. And then assistant goes over, stands next to him, and I think it's, I forget what the salute was, but she salutes him as a sign of respect, and the statement is made that he was seen as a worthy foe by Mare's fleet. So that in and of itself, it's like one warrior acknowledging a fallen adversary, but like a fallen adversary of merit. Hence the respectful salute. And in that same thing, because her dad died, pretty much anything that he owned has now become Ari's property, including the 5 slaves. So he had 4, and then assistant. And they've just been to a funeral. Ari's visibly distressed, and yeah. So they go back to her quarters, and the next day, the station has to clear out her dad's quarters because the new station master is coming in, and like, oh yeah, so I would appreciate you coming with me to do that. That would be great. Like, yes, well, it's time that you what was it? What was the phrase? I've not seen it, but essentially, assistant Mer, uh, Mir, Mir, uh, reminds Ari that she's now in possession of 5 people, and that at one point she tried to get her dad to free at least assistant Mer. And that now, because she has the power to do so herself, that needs to happen. And that she wants to be on a transport that's leaving in the next 2 hours. So they go from a kind of stressful morning situation where Ari has to go and go through all of her dad's stuff to I want to be gone because I can be now. So go get my freedom so that I can leave. And it's apparently like in this universe, the process of freeing a slave is essentially like inputting a couple lines of code and hitting enter, and that's about it, which is interesting. So, so she frees assistant. She frees the other 4 slaves so that they can do whatever it is that they want to do. I forget at what point it is in here. But, there was a note made that, all of them, like all of the other 4 women, or 4 people, I don't think they actually say what, genders the other people are. But the 4 are able to go out and find paid work after this, which is very cool. And then so she's freed, is leaving on a transport to go to a particular outpost, and then like 3 days later, 4, yeah, a couple days later, yeah, it must have been 3 days later, she finds out that the ship that her person was on has been found destroyed with quote unquote no survivors. Now, that could mean that everyone was dead and floating in space, or it could mean that the ship was destroyed and there were no bodies. From what we know of Pirate Queen Mir, Pirate Queen Mir, and some of the future things that are going on, pretty likely that it's, the second one, and the pirates didn't just, happen to know that their person was on this tiny ship, so therefore ransacked and killed everybody else. Somehow, I don't quite think that's how they did it. But, there we go. But because of that, assistant is presumed dead. And she kind of slips into, it's not a rage per se, kind of, but yeah, blind rage kind of a thing, like the grief rage, where it seems like from the description that she kind of dissociates for a bit, and then when she comes back, she's in the middle of debris everywhere and the jars of specimens and plant material and things that she had all nice and sorted or shattered all over the floor. And Cranley, the little praying mantis friend, is had been pinned under his branch and is now crushed, and on top of everything else, that just sends her spiraling even more. And yeah. And we'll get into it more in 15, but she's in her rooms by herself. All of her people, all of anything that she's really cared about is gone. The garden's there, but she doesn't have the capacity to care about the plants at this point. All the people that she cares about are gone, and it was just her dad and assistant, and both of them are presumed dead at this point. So she's having a full, intense situation, and between that and just, she was already kind of neglectful with her own needs and stuff until assistant showed up and reminded her to eat and bathe and whatnot sometimes. So there's the depression, and there's the general absent-mindedness that she already had, just stacking, leading to the need for medical intervention. So she's alright, but that's the thing that we're gonna be going into in chapter 15 for next week. So yeah, there we go. So Monday, we're gonna be finishing the book. It's 15 to... Okay. Epilogue. I just know from the audio there's a chapter that's like an hour and a half long. Alright, so yeah, we've got, it's chapter 15, chapter 20, and then the epilogue, so, yeah. Like, 6 chapters left, essentially. Yeah. So that is it for right now. Anything? Wait. Ow. Anyone have any suggestions, questions, observations that y'all want to share with the class, or nah for right now? Yeah. His ow. Like, seriously, they there's some, right? There's some books that I've read that have a sapphic romance element. That it's just, it seems so trite and contrived and whatever else. And I realize that a big part of that is like, I can't see myself in the characters, so it's harder to relate. That's across the board, regardless of identities and everything else. That it's just, if you see someone that's vaguely like you, then alright. And this, we have a botanist who's really awkward, kinda really bad at social situations, and like, he wants to be around people, but like, is also the weird one. So much. Not entirely. I will give you that. Like, but if if I was on a space station removed from whatever else, this might well be, at least personality wise, roundabouts what I'd be going with. So, interesting things there. Yeah. So, there's that. We're finishing up this on Monday. We're gonna do another just kind of general stream Thursday, presumably. It might be Friday, depending on certain things, but probably Thursday. And I've got, you won't be able to really see it, but I can tilt this down. Yeah. But I've got some, like, oh no you don't. Got a pile of wings over here. I've got some Bob Fulu's in process there, and like, because I had a brainwave, I figured I'd do some like regular people-y ones too. So we'll see. That one goes down here. Yeah. All right. One sec. We'll see what happens with those, but I'm gonna try and I'm gonna try and get at least some of those up on the Etsy page in not too long a time. So there's that. And even if they're not up on the Etsy, they should be up on the Instagram shortish. So there's that. Anyway, so that is all for today. It would be longer, but not the best at discussing sex scenes, and also it's like it's written well. I'll say that. Not exactly relevant to the plant side of this whole endeavor. So, no. Come on. Anyway, anyone have comments, queries, suggestions, observations for future books to do the book club things with? I don't know. Or alternatively, different outfits you would like to see Babu in, because there's now like a compendium of them. But no, don't do that. So I'm trying to get this thing so that it like one sec, guys. I went to the trouble of making sure that the entire thing was like how it was supposed to be and all that, and just realized that it was still set on art from last round. Like, why? Ah. Is there anyone? Not really feeling it. Alright, so thank you much, everybody, for hanging out and being generally awesome. I really appreciate it. And I will see you next time. Have a good one. Whether it's morning time or nighttime or afternoon time. I'm in the nighttime camp here. So, yeah, have a good one. I will see you later. And, yeah, it was good talk. Bye, everybody. Sending. That's not how you spell that. One sec. Sending hugs to everybody. There you go. Have a good one. I will see you later. Bye now.